The president said last week. Republican Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi is a senior member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He's joining us live from Capitol Hill. Senator, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
All right, so the president didn't set a specific timeline for withdrawing from Syria last week. He simply said very soon. Does he need to rethink that thought, pulling out of the country, quote, very soon?
I think he's probably rethinking that now, and it probably was before this attack. The president should rely on his chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He should rely on Secretary Mattis. And of course, this is quite a welcome for John Bolton's first day on the office in the White House. So he's got some very talented leadership around him. And I think if I were the president, if the president asked me for my advice, I would say, listen to the generals, listen to your top leadership, and act accordingly. But I do believe in Syria, we should be results-based and not slaves to a timeline.
Some leading Republicans, as you know, Senator, they say the president's words actually emboldened the Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad. Listen to how, for example, the House Armed Services Committee Chairman Mac Thornberry and Senator Lindsey Graham, a man you know well, listen to how they responded.
I think the notion that we would leave Syria was a mistake, because we haven't finished destroying ISIS, and because people like Iran and Russia see a vacuum created when the U.S. leaves, into which they will run.
They see our resolve breaking. They see our determination to stay in Syria waning. And this no accident they use chemical weapons. But President Trump can reset the table here.
So what's your reaction? Do you agree with them?
Well, okay, I didn't hear Mac Thornberry say that the president's statement emboldened the Syrians into doing this chemical attack. So I would characterize his statement differently. I think both of them make a valid point. I don't think the job is done in Syria, and I think we ought to stay till we get the results we need.
But let's talk a little bit about what Senator John McCain, who's the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, what he said. He tweeted this, and I'll put it up on the screen. POTUS's President of the United States pledge to withdraw from Syria has only emboldened Bashar al-Assad, backed by Russia and Iran, to commit more war crimes in Douma. That's that suburban town where the poison gas is suspected to have occurred. He says the president should make Bashar al-Assad, quote, pay a price for his brutality. Do you agree with Senator McCain?
Well, I certainly agree with the second part of that. And yes, John McCain is the one who really made quite a statement that this emboldened the Syrians. But I will subscribe to the second part, certainly, of Senator McCain's statement. We need to make Bashar Assad pay a price. There are a number of options on the table. And frankly, to the extent that we can ascertain what role the Russians had, I do think sanctions and strong measures are called for with President Putin also. I'll tell you, Wolf, I'll tell you why the Russians are saying this was a hoax. That's for domestic consumption. They know that no one in the UN Security Council believes that this is a hoax. This is for domestic consumption back in Russia. He's totally in charge of his media there, and he can make people in his own homeland believe almost anything, because he's the only one who gets to broadcast their side of the issue.
And the president, we just heard him say, may have been the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad, may have been the Iranians, may have been Putin and the Russians, maybe all of them. He's raising that possibility. He says all options.
The Russians are saying it didn't happen at all.
Well,
and of
obviously,
course, that's absurd. No one believes that except people in Moscow who are listening to only one TV station.
Yeah, I suspect they don't even believe that. But if you take a look at these pictures of these little children gasping and trying to be protected, these are horrific pictures that we're seeing, and it's clearly devastating. We're showing some of those video right now. Those little kids being poisoned with this gas attack. When he says all options are on the table, the president, what option would you like to see the U.S. commit?
I'm not the commander-in-chief. I'm not in that line of decision-making. But I think he's correct not to rule anything out. That has been a process. It's been the position that presidents down through the decades have taken on both sides of the aisle, and I think the president's correct not to take any action off the table.
Well, he says there is something will happen over the next 24 to 48 hours. We shall see. Senator Wicker, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf.